Hello, everyone. Welcome to MMA Midnight Post-Fight Show. I'm your host, Shant Yeretzian, and today we're going to recap the action from Liddell vs. Ortiz 3, and we're also going to recap the action from UFC Beijing with Francis Ngannou taking on Curtis Blaydes in a rematch. So let's get started with the Liddell vs. Ortiz 3. It's kind of how I predicted it was going to go. If you watched the preview show, I predicted Ortiz to win, and I knew Chuck's chin wasn't the same. You know, he's just taken too many knockout losses, too many shots. Tito ended up finishing him with a 1-2 and then hitting him with a couple more shots on the ground. Chuck was out completely cold. It happened in the first round. It was at the end of the first round. Chuck didn't really do much. He was backing up, you know, his hands at his sides like how he kind of usually does, looking for like the overhand and stuff. But he didn't look like very confident in there. It looked like once Tito started throwing some punches, like Chuck was just rattled. Tito did his thing. He pressured him, you know, 1-2, 1-2, dropped Chuck. Yeah, and then finished him. He was out cold. Chuck was not sure if he was going to retire afterwards, and Tito was like encouraging him to continue fighting, which I really don't want to see that. I hope Chuck Liddell retires. The way he went out, it wasn't even that hard of a shot, and he went out completely cold. It was a clean punch, but I don't know. I just feel like Chuck's chin isn't there anymore. Like, he should have been able to take that punch and, like, keep coming back. But, yeah, you don't want to see him suffer any more brain damage, you know, because that's clearly a result of all those punches. I don't want to see Chuck fight anymore. I hope he retires. You know, he made a lot of money in this, supposedly what they were talking about figure-wise. Not sure what the pay-per-view numbers did yet, but if anything, you know, like, I'm sure he made a lot of money. He should just retire. Tito's probably going to retire. He doesn't know. He wasn't sure afterwards in the post-fight interview as well. But as far as the fight went, yeah, it was kind of sad to see Chuck get knocked out like that again. I knew it was going to happen. Like, your chin's not going to recover. Like, just because he took 8 years off doesn't mean, like, it's going to reverse brain damage. There's no reversing brain damage. It's unfortunate. You know, your body just goes out like that to protect your brain from any further damage. So the fact that he just ate, like, you know, like a 1-2 and went down, like, was out, that's not a good sign, because, like, Tito's got power and his boxing's gotten better over the years, but he's not, like, if you saw the punch, it landed clean, but it wasn't, you know, Chuck should have been able to take that punch. That shouldn't have happened. It was sad to see Chuck get knocked out like that again. Yeah, he should retire. Tito, if he wants to keep fighting, he can. Tito's always been one of those guys that covers up well. He's never really gone out cold, you know, even when, like, Chuck beat him before. You know, he covers up, he takes the TKO. He doesn't go out cold. He's like Chael Sonnen, and he preserves his head and his chin. He knows how to, like, cover up and just take the loss instead of just, like, waiting to go out cold. So that's how the fight went. The production wasn't bad. The ring, I don't know what, I mean, the cage, I don't know why, it looked like something like Access TV fights or something. The sponsors, the way the logos were. I know this was Golden Boy Promotions' first event. I hope it'll get better in the future. But the ring did kind of, the cage did kind of look a little amateurish. You know, I was expecting really, like, something out there with, like, you know, Golden Boy Promotions, you know, they got a lot of money. I was expecting it to be really nice. You know, I was expecting like a big Corona logo in the middle or something. Instead, there was like some insurance company logo. It was a little weird, but I think it'll get better. I hope De La Hoya sticks with it. I hope Golden Boy MMA continues. The more promotions, the better. It's better pay for fighters, more negotiating power. So anything that'll help fighter pay, I'm always for it. So more promotions like that, better. So we'll see in the future if they have any more events. Tito was talking like him and Oscar were going to put together some other fights, whether he was involved in like actual fighting or just putting them together. He sounded like he was, you know, hopeful for the future, and he almost sounded like he was like a business partner in it as well, the way he was talking. Okay, let's move on to the UFC Fight Night in Beijing with Francis Ngannou taking on Curtis Blaydes 2. We'll start with the main event. Francis Ngannou ended up finishing Curtis Blaydes in the first round. It was a quick fight. It didn't even like last a minute. He landed like an overhand right, Francis did, and it dropped Curtis Blaydes. It kind of looked like the Junior Dos Santos overhand right when he dropped Kane to win the belt. He kind of threw it like that. It reminded me a lot of JDS, Junior Dos Santos, the way he threw that overhand right. Yeah, it caught Curtis Blaydes, and then Ngannou just kept throwing like right hands as Blaydes was trying to recover, trying to get up, trying to like scramble, and yeah, they stopped the fight. It was a good stoppage. There was no need for Curtis to go out completely cold. He was pretty much finished. I know he kind of like argued the stoppage, but he's a young guy. He'll be back. Like, you don't want to see him take too much damage already, and young in his career, because like we see with guys like Chuck Liddell, like once you lose your chin, once you get that brain damage, you're never going to be the same. You're never going to be able to take a shot anymore. It's better for him to be able to like save that chin, because it's Francis Ngannou. That guy hits hard. Say if like they let it go and Francis just kept hitting him like 10 more times or something, and then they stopped the fight, there would have been no need, because it seemed like he was done. There's always those fights like Czech Congo, Pat Barry, where the guy comes back from like the grave to win the fight, but those are so rare. You can't always let a fight go that long in hopes that it'll be a turnaround, because that's just not smart for the fighters, for their safety, and I'm sure the athletic commissions wouldn't like that either. So yeah, good win by Francis Ngannou. He looked like back, like mentally he looked strong, confident. He did seem a little rattled, like his confidence in the past couple fights, because he was really soaring high. Maybe he was a little full of himself going into that Stipe fight, but he did lose a lot of confidence afterwards. That fight humbled him, but he was a little too low on confidence. I feel like now he's back at like a good level where he feels like he believes in his power again, his striking, and he went out there and showed it. He didn't look timid, like fearing Curtis Blaydes' takedowns. Like, he wasn't like, oh no, I'm going to get taken down, I'm going to get tired. He wasn't thinking like that. He seemed very confident that that wasn't going to happen, and he felt comfortable throwing down. So, good win for Francis Ngannou. In the co-main event, we had Alistair Overeem taking on Sergey Pavlovich. Sergey came out with some heavy punches. Like, that dude hits hard. He's got some good hands. Overeem ended up getting a trip takedown on him and just landing some brutal ground and pound and stopping him. It was a TKO stoppage, but Sergey was pretty much, he wasn't out cold, but he wasn't even defending himself. He didn't know where he was. His arm was just somewhat covering his face, but it wasn't really doing anything. It was pretty brutal. Great ground and pound by Overeem. Overeem had a smart game plan. Like I said, he got the trip takedown, went for the ground and pound. And Dan Hardy was talking about in the broadcast how Overeem has a lot of submission wins as well. So that was smart for Overeem to take it down, because you never know, he might have been able to catch something, or in a transition, in a scramble, catch that famous guillotine of his, or land some knees. So good game plan by Alistair Overeem. Yeah, that was another exciting heavyweight fight. So if you guys didn't see the fights, check them out. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and stay tuned for next week's episode. Thank you. Bye.